So I'm going to start this video with one of my least favorite sentences in the entire English language. Your choices and habits decide your future. This is obviously a piece of advice that we're all given from the day we're born till the day we die, and I hate it. There are few things I hate more on this earth than this piece of advice. Not because it's not true, it is true. Nobody's ever said this piece of advice isn't true. It's one of the most true pieces of advice ever. But because it's one of those things right up there next to, be a nice person, that's so true, that is so milquetoast agreeable, that it ends up with no action, right? How many people do you know that have said, be a nice person, and just are the worst guy you know? Like, all of them. Nobody's telling you to be a nice person if they're a nice person, they're just a nice person, right? And I feel this piece of advice kind of works in the same way, where not that lazy people are giving me this piece of advice, but it's just so inactionable, but it's undeniably true, right? Makes it great for guys who are selling courses to tell you. Because some things are just not, what does that mean after a while? How do you decide the choices and habits that get you out of the crippling medical debt you're in, right? What are the choices and habits that lead you to being rich when it's I have nothing, I'm poor right now? I feel like so much of it is just sort of, it's great advice for when you're 16 and you're man, I'm trying to lose 10 pounds. Great then. Once you get past some stuff like that, it's all right, this isn't getting me anywhere, right? Why am I starting this video, though, with piece of advice I hate? It's kind of a weird thing to do, right? It's not just because I want to rant about how dumb that piece of advice is. There's actually a reason to it, right? And that reason is that I think there's a version of this idea that I think works better. I think it can get you a little bit farther because it's less of a piece of advice and more of a mantra, right? This is something I try to live by when I'm making decisions, right? Because thinking when you're sitting there, right, and you're trying to go through your day, maybe you're a little down at one point, maybe you're feeling a little lazy, thinking to yourself, my choices and habits define my future, is not going to get you out of any sort of slump. It's just going to make you, you're just I don't know what the fuck that means, and keep watching TikTok or doing whatever unproductive thing you might be doing, right? In the lens of productivity. This can be anything, though. Maybe you catch yourself just doing something you don't want to be doing, and you'd rather be doing something else. Right? This lens of your choice and habits decide your future is super unhelpful when it comes down to making the decisions that guide your choices and habits that affect your future, right? One of the reasons I hate this piece of advice, despite how factual it might be on paper. A version of this I like way better is extraordinary people do not do ordinary things. Now, I want to specify one thing right after giving this piece of advice. I think the presumption here is that could be extraordinary. What does that mean? I don't know. I also hate the idea, there's sort of this very prevalent idea of well, if you want to be something, it has to mean that you want to be rich, that you want to be famous, that you want to be, one of these very societally held things. And you can want to be happy, you can want to be a lot of things. Most people I've met are not trying to be rich or famous, but they still struggle to make the decisions to get to a life they want to have. I feel like advice that gets given in the lens of productivity in a more broad term of what we do in a day, right, is always so unapplicable to 99% of people. Because the reality is, let's say you go, I want to live a quiet life on a farm and have fresh bread and paint in the morning. That's way harder to do than anybody's ever going to tell you. That seems like a simple life. That seems like it's that's humble. But that's almost impossible to achieve in the modern day. That is just as hard of a goal as going I want to be the next Leonardo DiCaprio, right? So I think because of that, I hate how much of the advice out there is geared towards trying to be the next Leonardo DiCaprio, when I think more realistically, a lot of people want to just be happy, right? Then that's the lens I want to discuss this. That's why I don't like the wording of this mantra already, of extraordinary people don't do ordinary things, right? And I want to change that to normal people, or rather weird people don't do normal things, right? Also kind of a terrible phrase. I'd actually really like if one of you could come up with something better for this phrasing, but here's the gist of how it goes, right? we make a series of decisions in a day, right? And I started thinking about this quote, namely because I'm infinitely indecisive. This is something you guys probably know about me. It's one of the reasons why I make videos like this instead of like trying to script out something and get it out there, because I question myself a million times in every word I say. I am always like, what is the right thing to do here? What is, let's think about this for an hour and then get nothing done, right? That's a thing I find myself doing a lot. And it's fine, it's even fun. And think like here it's fun. I feel like this is way more fun than if I came here every day, like I have a point to make and I think I'm 100% correct. I think it's way better, right? I like it in some aspects, but it's still deeply paralyzing in others, right? So because of that, I needed a way to help me make decisions, sort of a guiding philosophy that wouldn't be, too dogmatic, that could just kind of be a nice guide to help me. And this is what I've thought of, because so often the decisions, the conventional wisdom that we hold dear is conventional wisdom that will get you to somebody else's life, right? Specifically like what's largely considered by many people at least to be sort of a very hollow existence of like, all right, I'm going to go to work and then go home and I'm going to be in crippling debt for the rest of my life, like go to work for a job you hate, fill out spreadsheet, go home, DoorDash burrito, make sure you pay subscriptions so you can watch a new show on TV, go to bed. Like it's very much like, the oldest, most played out thing is this hamster wheel though. It feels like that, right? It feels like a hamster wheel. It's never going to get better. And I think that for me, as a younger person who is not living that life by any means, but is really scared that I could be within the next year, because when people are in their, early to mid 20s, that's usually when they end up finding themselves going down that path. I've held this idea dear of like, all right, I'm sitting here right now making a decision. It can be any decision, right? What skill do I want to accentuate right now? What idea do I want to try and promote? It could be any decision I'm making throughout the day. And when I'm guided with two options, right, I usually try and think of, okay, what would somebody who is not me do in this scenario? Like, what is the most normal thing to do here? And I'll try to do, not the opposite of that, that's just being a contrarian, that's also pretty useless, but just do something that you want to do. Instead, if you can make that decision, right? What would a normal person do in the morning? Maybe they'd wake up and read the news. What do you want to do in the morning? Maybe you want to wake up and read a comic book. Maybe you want to wake up and watch an episode of your favorite anime. Like stuff like that. These small decisions, I do believe, have way more impact than we often give them nowadays, because so many things are very fed to us. Like so much is fed to us now, right? With that, I also do want to say, many of the decisions that, because obviously this is nice in some regards of like, okay, it's a nice thing to do of like, normal people take a shower right now, I'm going to take a bath with my rubber ducky. Like, that's a fun thing to do, but the reality of the situation is that's not going to change anything, right? That's not going to actually change your life. So I will, once again, kind of third caveat in here, to say that many of the things where this idea, this guiding philosophy is most productive have to do with avoiding that cycle of being fed to. What would a normal person do when they first wake up? Maybe, I don't know, check TikTok, go on phone. I know that's what, like, trying to think of like a lot of people I know, that's what a lot of them do the second they wake up. What do you want to do the second you wake up? I don't know. Could be anything. For me, honestly, and I'm gonna be 100% honest, guys, I still go on my phone. I don't have TikTok on there, but I would still go on there. Like, I'm not gonna say I've 100% applied this the way I want to, but making decisions like that. What do you do when you're tired after work one day? Do you go on your phone? Do you watch TV? Maybe something as simple as switching out and reading a book is I think hugely productive. I want to try and avoid in this train of thought doing like sort of the very traditional grind set thing of like, oh, you're tired? Go on a 20-mile run. Like, that's stupid. I don't think that's really worthwhile. But small decisions being swapped out here, what do you do? What's your way to cool down? Maybe you can reframe your whole mindset so your way to cool down is no longer sitting on your phone and kind of just rotting there or watching TV, but it's painting, it's reading a book, it's going and playing on, what do people produce music on? FL Studio, it can be anything. I think there's so many ways to do all these things, and we have a way fed to us, right? What do you do to decompress the end of the day? You watch TV. What do you do with friends? You go to the bar, you sit there, right? that's doing these things. These are your habits. These are your decisions. These are going to lead to a certain outcome, right? Switching these things out, even in the most menial ways that don't seem to be important on face value at all, can be huge, right? What do you and friends do and say going to the bar? Maybe you go to a lounge and, like, I don't know, sit and do stuff at the lounge. I don't know, what are lounges anymore? I don't even know if they exist. Like, stuff like that, though, right? Maybe you and your friends want to start a D&D league instead. I've always wanted to play D&D, but nobody ever wants to play with me, so that's why that's on the top of my mind. But small decisions like this, I think, are a much more apt way of getting to this place we all want to get to, of having some sort of fulfillment, right? So I think that tailoring decisions that you find yourself making on a daily basis to be a little bit weird. You got to be okay with making them be a little bit weird. And many people look at it and be like, you're a freak, as I've had in the past. When I was in high school, when I started this whole thing, I used to wake up every day. I used to shave every morning. I had nothing to shave. I was 16. I didn't have any hairs on my face. And I would listen to smooth jazz music while sipping black coffee. That, I don't know why I just put that out onto the internet. That's so embarrassing. But, like, I would, and you know what? I got called a freak, but that's so fun. That's so cool, Like, I should emphasize the reason I got called a freak is because I told people I did that. Second mistake, shouldn't have done that. But hey, I did, and you know what? I think I'm better for it. I think I'm better for all those mornings with my black coffee and my jazz music. So I think that doing all this is, I think, doing the weird things, doing things that are a little off the beaten path, but going to separate you from everyone else, even if it's a small thing at the end of the day or a big thing at the beginning of it. I think they're great, and I think we should all do it. This is the painting. Once again, we're doing form here, but I want to go in way scratchier on this form. I want this form to be sort of messy, almost like, you guys remember the Deconstruction series? I want to say Deconstruction ended over 100 painting talks ago now. I feel like that series has been gone for a while. But that series sort of, maybe it wasn't over 100. It was a while ago now, where I would paint a face and not finish the face to try and pull some emotion out of it. I want to sort of combine that, some of the strokes and techniques we used back then with this form. And you know what? I don't love it. I think it's interesting. I think it's like there's a little more to grab onto than some of them, but it's interesting. It's an experiment. So go check this out on the TikTok and the Instagram. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Seiss. This has been Paint Talk episode 267. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.